Well, ever since the the 1940s and 1950s, game shows were soon starting to be a big thing, even on the radio before coming to television. And there was this one game that really made it big, and that would be Beat the Clock. And I'm going to be talking about today in the 40th episode of Wide World Game Shows. Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews presents Wide World of Game Shows. Greetings, my fellow YouTubers. I'm Doyle, the Big D to you. This is Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews, back again with another episode of Wide World of Game Shows. This time around, it's going to be the 40th episode. I figured since I'd done so well with the last episode on To Tell the Truth, I guess I can do what I plan to do for this one. Give you another one of the old-time game shows from long ago. And this one's came out possibly even before To Tell the Truth, or even other games that Mark Goodson and Bill Todman gave everybody, including What's My Line and I've Got a Secret. And that's a fun-filled game where you get to do all sorts of zany stunts within the time limit. And I think you know what game that is. That game would be none other than Beat the Clock. Beat the Clock was a fun-filled game show produced by Goodson and Todman that really focused on two teams performing various stunts. It originally started out on the radio in the late 40s, and it started out as, well, under different titles before it came to this. It came to TV in 1950 on CBS and has been rebooted several times over the years. Okay, now Beat the Clock involves people trying to complete challenges to win prizes while faced with a time limit. Now, it originally started out as Times of Wasting in 1948, hosted by Bud Collyer, who of course would go on to host the actual series itself. It later changed its name to Beat the Time, which of course would be later used as a sort of parody take on this on Sesame Street years later. And then it came to CBS in 1950, where it stayed on there for 8 years until 1958, and then moved to ABC for its final 3 years. It was later. It has been rebooted several times. In for syndication in 1969, and then where it would go on and then be produced for Canada, and then CBS picked it up again for a new series in 1979. Then PAX TV, now Ion TV, and then more recently, Universal Kids. Now then, now in Beat the Clock, contestants were required to perform tasks called problems by Collyer within a certain time limit, which was counted down on a large 60-second clock. If they succeeded, they were said to have beaten the clock. Otherwise, the clock beat them. Anyway, let me see. Now, the main game had one couple competed against the clock to win a prize in stunts that required one or both members of the couple. The sum was described and the time limit was set on the clock. The time limit was always a multiple of 5 seconds, usually at least 30 seconds tops. At one point, Collyer said that a 55-second time limit was the maximum, but later on, stunts occasionally had the 1 minute 60-second time limit. It was also shown in prime time, and the first stunt was called the $100 clock. And if the couple beat that, they moved on to the $200 clock, and the same rules applied. If they failed to, they received a consolation prize worth less than $100. If they failed to beat the 200, they got a prize worth more than $100. On the daytime versions, couples continued playing as long as they kept beating the clock, with various prizes awarded for each victory. On the primetime version, it was a little something called Jackpot Clock. And if they could beat the 200 clock, then the wife in the couple would play this, in which the words of a famous saying or quote were scrambled up on a magnetic board, and that phrase had to be unscrambled in 20 seconds or less. If successful, they won the jackpot prize, but if not, they got a prize worth more than $200. Occasionally, when the wife of the couple did not speak English very well, the husband was allowed to perform the jackpot clock. Now, that and the bonus stunt, which I'll get to in a second, would provide the templates for the traditional quiz show bonus round, which would become a TV staple starting in 1950 with a bonus question round on You Bet Your Life. Anyway, yeah. Now, in the show's earliest set design available episodes, there was a round display near the contestants mirroring the clock. This display had three rings of light like a target. The outer ring would light during the $100 clock, the middle ring for the 200, and the center on the jackpot. This feature was later removed in later set designs. They also had a bonus stunt because sometime during every episode, a bell would sound and the couple playing at the time would attempt the bonus stunt for the bonus prize that started with $100 in cash. If it was not being, it would be attempted the next week with $100 added to the prize. When it was being, it was retired and a new bonus stunt began the next week at 100. Now, beginning in 1954, the starting amount of each bonus stunt was raised to 500, and still increasing $100 each week. Anyway, bonus stunts were harder than the usual $100 and $200 clocks, and sometimes reached $2,000 and even $3,000 on rare occasions. The first time it reached $1,000 was in February of 1953 when it was won for that amount, and then in 56 the bonus stunt was replaced by the super bonus. So they went on to do that starting in February of 1956 after the last bonus stunt had won. So they had to try and do it. I'm just going to tell you there was so much to talk about. There's too much to talk about the original series, though. Then they have a big cash bonus stunt that started in September of 1956, where the bonus reverted to the original bonus stunt format. Attempted once per episode by whatever couple heard the bonus bell ringing. The jackpot started at $5,000 and increased to $1,000 every week it was not won. If successful, the couple left the show with the top prize. Otherwise, they continued on with the original game. Now, I will tell you, they had numerous stunts and what have you. Most of them, in some way, involved physical speed or dexterity. Contestants often had to balance something with some part of their body or race back and forth on the stage. For example, releasing a balloon, running across the stage to do some task, or I don't know, what have you. Often the challenge was some form of target practice, like in terms of throwing, rolling, bowling, etc. Just various things and what have you. Now, numerous prizes would be given away. $100 clock prizes include silverware sets from Michael C. Fina. Let's see, small kitchen appliances, or even a Hoover upright, among others. The $200 clock prizes included, let's see, International Harvester refrigerators. Didn't know they made refrigerators. Let's see. There's a range and oven combo from Tappan. Speed Queen washers and dryers, and small Sylvania TVs, and other things. Now, the jackpot prize, well, during the tenure of Sylvania, being a supporter, was always a television set. Sometimes a hi-fi stereo phonograph with famous surround sound was also included, and it was noted that the jackpot prize was worth more than $500. Incredible, huh? Oh yeah. There was so many and what have you. Now, after the original run, Game Show Network did air most of this and what have you. I'm not sure if you can find many episodes on YouTube. Buzzr did air these for a brief period of time before removing the show, however, from its lineup. It went, for mostly the CBS run, but they didn't air the ABC run, as it aired until 1961. Then, 8 years later, Beat the Clock returned and aired 5 days a week in syndication and was taped at the Little Theater on Broadway in New York, sharing the stage with The Merv Griffin Show and The David Frost Show. After that, it moved to Montreal in Quebec as a cost-saving measure. This was the only Goods and Tom tape, well, the only time that Goods and Tom taped a series in Canada that was not for a Canadian-specific audience. The show was broadcast by CTV in Canada. Jack Nars, who would later go on to host Now You See It and the 70s version of Concentration, hosted the first 3 seasons before leaving. And as announcer, Gene Wood, who this was still before he would start announcing for Family Feud and other games for Goods and Todman, replaced him for the remainder of the run. Now let's see. In early episodes, couples now aided by a weekly celebrity guest played for points simply by completing stunts. The first couple to reach 100 points won a prize package. This was subsequently changed to the couples receiving a prize every time they won, which was later replaced by the winning couple facing a cash board would Beat the Clock spelled out on 3 levels, each letter concealing a money amount, either $25, $50, $100, or $200. The couple would agree on a letter selected and the winnings would be revealed. In addition, if a couple completed a stunt in less than half the time, the remaining time would be used for awarding a cash bonus. Anywhere from $10 to $50 would be awarded for each time the stunt was completed in the time remaining. Now, at some point during the show, the celebrity would perform a solo stunt, which seemed to have supplemented the bonus stunt from the original show. Now, the couples won $50 if they guessed correctly where the star could beat the clock or vice versa. Anyway, now also, Nars actually wore a suit jacket and what have you, and had an embroidered patch of the show's logo sewn onto it. Gene Wood also wore those as well. The practice was similar to the hosts of the dating game and the Newlywed Game, who were Jim Lang and Bob Eubanks. They also had the Scrambled Mystery logo seen on Hugh Downs and later Bob Clayton's blazer when they hosted Concentration. After Nars left the show, he made no announcement and gave no reason for his departure. But in 2000, in an interview, he explained that the show's budget did not include his personal travel expenses. He had to pay for his travel and the cost of airline fare between his LA home and Montreal became prohibitive. So announcer Gene Wood will host the show for the next 2 seasons. Wood had also been hosting a similar stunt game show called Anything You Can Do, which was a battle of the sexes competition, which was also recorded in Canada. I've never actually seen that show. Anyway. Now, when Gene Wood took over, the show was now called The New Beat the Clock, although the logo still had the original title, though. The only changes in the format were that couples were introduced separately and played 2 stunts, win or lose, a win still getting a trip to the cash board, and both couples competed simultaneously in a final stunt, with the winning couple receiving a prize. Celebrity guests were retained in the new format, once again aiding the contestants and performing the solo stunt, as well as co-judge with Wood in the final stunt of the day. Another throwback to the Collier era was when the show was seen during the daytime was a revival of Ladies' Day, where women only, not counting the celebrity for that week, would play the game. Well, I will say that did pretty well. You can find some episodes I'm pretty sure you can find episodes on YouTube. GSN did air those, and Buzzer never aired it. They did air a couple episodes recently during their Lost and Found, or Lost and Fun little blog they had recently. 5 years later, the show was brought back as CBS elected to bring it back as the all-new Beat the Clock. And production moved to CBS Television City, taping in Studio 31, marking the first time a Beat the Clock series originated from LA. The series premiered in September 1979, replacing reruns of On the Family, which that happened to have been canceled. And and that was the same year its spin-off Archie Bunker's Place debuted in primetime. The show preceded the short-lived, which recently premiered a few months before this, and was hosted by Monty Hall, who hosted Let's Make a Deal. He had not hosted a game show his company did not produce since he was host of Hater Quigley's Video Village and was the MC for the series, while former host of the '70s syndicated series Jack Narr served as an announcer and the series producer. However, it faced off stiff competition against another good Tommen show, and that was the original Card Sharks on NBC. Anyway, I will say I've its theme song's pretty good and what have you. Anyway, the show started with two rounds. First two rounds began with couples competing against each other in a stunt worth $500 for the winner. One stunt usually featured the women of the couples, while the other featured the men, though the other partners sometimes had to help as well. The stunts were conducted for 60 seconds and were either races against the clock to perform an objective or competitions to outscore the opponent in the stunt before the clock ran out. In the former case, the clock was run as a fail-safe, and if neither couple managed to complete the stunt, the team furthest along won. Hall would then bring the winning couple across the stage to compete in a stunt by themselves for an additional $500. After Hall described the stunt and what both partners had to do, the clock was set and the couple had to complete the stunt in the allotted time. Doing so won $500. The failure to do so did not. Now, after the first two rounds, both teams square off in a modified table shuffleboard game called the bonus shuffle. The teams took turns throwing pucks down a shuffleboard table. The team leading had the advantage of drawing 3 pucks and going first, followed by the other team with 2 pucks. If there was a tie, a coin was tossed with the winners going first, and there were 2 pucks per side. The table had 8 stripes on it, and each stripe had a higher dollar amount on it. The first one was worth $300, and each subsequent stripe was worth $100 or more. Well, I'm not more, with the stripe at the very end worth $1,000. There was just enough space in between the stripes where a puck could land and not score any money. Pucks had to remain on the table to count, but if a puck failed to reach the first stripe, it was taken off the board and discarded. The teams were allowed to try to knock each other's pucks off the board if they so desired, but did so at their own risk, as they could just easily knock their own puck off the board or push a puck up the board and onto a higher value. The team whose puck was first on the board after all pucks had been thrown won the money attached to the space their puck was touching and became the day's champions and moved on to play the bonus stuff for 10 times the amount of their bonus shuffle total. In the event of a tie, each team drew 1 puck. The first puck's landing spot was marked, and the other team had to beat the mark to win. Now, in the bonus stunt, this round was conducted at the same way as the solo stunts were. Hall would give the objective of the stunt to the champion couple. Then the clock would be set, and the couple had to complete it before the time ran out. If they did so, as previously mentioned, they won 10 times their bonus shuffle for a maximum of $10,000, and a new bonus stunt would be played on the next show. If it was played 5 consecutive times without a couple managing to complete it, the stunt would be replaced with a new one. Couples continued to appear until they were either defeated or surpassed $25,000 in their total winnings. They could win up to $13,000 in one day if they managed to win all 4 stunts in the main game. They score $1,000 in the bonus shuffle and win the bonus stunt. In November of 1979, they switched to an all-celebrity format called the all-new All-Star Beat the Clock. And there were many changes and what have you, but too many to mention, though. Anyway, now Game Show Network did air this version. I've seen a little bit of it, Buzzers also aired this on a sporadic basis, and you can find full episodes on. I believe you can find some on YouTube. You can also find episodes on Amazon Prime if it's still there through Buzzer, or unless they don't have any more. I'm pretty sure there's free ad, free ad channel Freevee would have them. In 2002, the show was back again. Would come back again. After its previous appearance on the game show Marathon Special on CBS, which Ricky Lake hosted, the show came back and was now part of the PAX TV lineup, where it was paired after Supermarket Sweep. It was taped at Universal Studios Florida and was hosted by Gary Kroeger, who recently hosted one of the first seasons of the new Newlywed Game before Bob Eubanks took over, along with Julie Lynn Parker as his co-host and sidekick. However, three couples competed in this version with no returning champions. They were distinguished by color of the team: red, blue, and gold. Now, this is one I've watched a lot of. I've watched just about a lot of this. In the first round, all three couples faced off in a stunt. The couple to complete the stunt first got 10 points and the advantage of having to play a 30-second solo stunt first, as well as the ability to assign the stunts to the other teams prior to gameplay. The couple was shown items on a tray Parker brings out represented the stunts themselves, picked one for themselves to play, and divided the other two among the remaining players. Before the playing of each stunt, a two-part trivia question, a brain teaser, Kroeger calls it, was asked. Answering it correctly gave the team 10 extra seconds to complete the stunt, and both parts had been answered correctly, one by each player, in order to get those seconds. 10 points were given for completing the stunt, with one additional point for each remaining second on the clock. For example, if a couple completed a stunt with 3 seconds remaining, they scored 13 points for the round. Now, the second round, let's see. Yeah, the second round consisted of 2 parts. The first part was another face-off stunt. Now, in a stunt like this, that, as I mentioned, for example, trying to throw a ring around a pole the other player is wearing on their head. Well, the first place couple's ring tosser would be closest to their partner. The second place couple would be slightly further back, and the third place couple would be the first back. The first place couple was always given an advantage, with the second having less of one and the third at least. Play continued on. 2 of the couples completed the stunt, with those 2 teams continuing on. The third team would be eliminated from further play. So the 2 remaining couples were then shown the stunt they would have to attempt. After it was described, another trivia question was asked. In this case, the female half of the couple was given the option to answer it, having her partner answer it, pass it to the other team to make them answer. If they answered correctly, they would be given control, but if they didn't, the opponents did. The 2 couples then bid down from a base time of 2 minutes to see who could complete the stunt in the fastest amount of time, and bidding continued on until one team challenged the other to beat the clock. The stunt was then played, and if the challenged couple completed it, they won and advanced to the bonus game. If not, the challenging couple would win. The bonus round was the swirling whirlwind of cash and prizes, which was previously used in one of Bob Eubanks' least favorite games, the Diamond Head game, which I'll talk about that in a future episode. I'll possibly talk about next one because I know it's one of Eubanks' least favorite games he hosted. Anyway, this bonus round took place inside a machine similar to a vertical wind tunnel. $25,000 in cash was inside the machine, as well as several prize vouchers, which were colored slips of paper with names of prizes around them. Sometimes it might be good, or sometimes it could be a Best Buy gift certificate. Trust me, I know. I've heard them mention it. Several more vouchers would be tossed into the machine prior to the start of the round. Once inside the machine, both players tried to grab as much money in prize vouchers as they could within the time limit, which they had a minute to do. And for protection, like you should in a wind tunnel, the couple was equipped with gloves and goggles. There were three rules that had to be followed at all times. One, only items that were in the air could be grabbed, and neither teammate could bend over and pick up anything from the ground. However, if any vouchers or cash had somehow gotten stuck in a pile, they were permitted to kick the pile to get it loose. Two, each item that they grabbed had to be placed in a bag, which the male partner wore around his waist in order to be counted. Three, once the clock stopped, the couple both had to stop whatever they were doing and raise their hands in the air. Later in the run, several gold certificates were added. And if the couple picked up one, the cash they had grabbed would be doubled. If the couple somehow picked up more than one, only one was counted. And after that, they wait and then Julie Lynn will come back and tell them what they've won. So that was pretty good. It only ran for a season. In 2018, this show was brought back on Universal Kids. Never saw this one. It was hosted by Paul Costabile. And this was the second time this was taped in LA. It involved two kids in a team, or one kid and their adult relative, one dressed in purple and one dressed in green. They had to compete in a race against time filled with stunts and challenges, and there are 3 rounds of stunts. First one was worth $100, second is $150, and the third and final was a head-to-head challenge for $300 for a possible grand total of $550. Both teams get to keep the cash, but the team with the most money at the end of the final round wins the game and goes on to try and beat the big clock for over $2,000. In the event of a tie, whoever completes the task first or does the most tasks within the time limit in the head-to-head wins. If neither team complete the challenge and are still tied, whoever has the most money wins. The big clock round had the team had 60 seconds to complete one final 4-part stunt. Each part completed was worth $250, and completing all 4 parts was the team $2,000 along with a $1,000 donation to a children's charity of the team's choice. There, and that's that. Beat the Clock would also be shown internationally as well. But now you know about Beat the Clock and what have you. I will say it's a fun game. I've watched some of the versions, but the 2002 version is the one I'm more familiar with because I like that version. But anyway, that's going to do it for now. What did you think of Beat the Clock? You can tell me what you thought about in the comment section below. And if you like this video, click the like button below, subscribe, and be a part of the Big D Nation. And also, you can tell me which version of Beat the Clock you like. Did you like the original one with Bud Collyer? Did you like the syndicated one with Jack Nars or with Gene Wood? Or maybe the Monty Hall version or the Gary Kroeger version? Or maybe the more recent Universal Kids series? I didn't even know there actually was one because I don't have Universal Kids on my cable. But anyway, just let me know what you thought about the show, and let me know please feel free to let me know what's your favorite version of this, which version you like the most, or which one you're more familiar with. So that's going to do it. If you like this video, check out these other Wide World of Games show episodes. In the upper left-hand corner is the episode I did on The Price is Right. The upper right-hand corner is the episode I did on another fun game of stunts, and that would be Double Dare from Nickelodeon, of course, from 1986. Or you can go to the bottom left-hand corner and see the previous Wide World of Game Shows episode on To Tell the Truth. And the bottom right-hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe. If you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., as the Wide World of Game Shows, then I'm your guy. Thanks for watching, and we'll have another episode of Wide World of Game Shows come up real soon. And next time, I'll be bringing to you my review of John Wick. So until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.